Welcome back to Dreamcast here. My name is Alex, and today you're watching another rules and how to play for beginners for Warhammer 40K Kill Team 3rd edition. And today we're going to be looking at the Plague Marines Kill Team. With that out of the way, let's get the video started. Okay, so for the first faction rule we have is Astartes. During each friendly Plague Marine operative's activation, it can perform either 2 shoot actions or 2 fight actions. If it's 2 shoot actions, a bolt pistol, bolt gun, or psychic weapon must be selected for at least one of them. You cannot select the same psychic ranged weapon more than once per activation. And each friendly Plague Marine operative can counteract regardless of its order. Now, to expand on that, just basically means that all operatives in the team can perform a counteract activation even if their current order is engage or conceal. And in Kill Team 10th edition, if you have no operatives left to activate during a turning point, but it's your turn, you can basically perform a counteract activation, and you can choose an operative that has already been activated, perform one free 1 APL action like shoot, pick up, or dash. However, movements have a hard limit of 2 inches, so regardless of whether it's a dash, reposition, or whatnot, it has a hard limit of 2 inches, and you cannot repeat the same 1 APL action multiple times for the same operative in that same turning point. Okay, so the next faction rule we have is poison. So some weapons in this team's rules have the poison weapon rule. In the resolve attack dice step, if you inflict any damage with any successes, the operative that this weapon is being used against gains a poison token if it already doesn't have one. Now, whenever the operative with a poison token is activated, it takes 1 damage. So the next faction rule we have is disgustingly resilient. Whenever an attack dice inflicts a damage of 3 or more on a friendly Plague Marine operative, roll 1d6, and on a 4+, subtract 1 from that inflicted damage. Okay, we're moving on to strategic ploys. Now, the first strategic ploy we have is Contagion, and it's basically a debuff that works on enemy operatives with specific conditions required for it to activate. So it says right here, subtract 2 inches from the move stat of any enemy operative and worsen the hit stat of its weapons by 1. And this is not cumulative with being injured, so it doesn't stack, and it applies whenever an enemy unit is within control range of a friendly Plague Marine operative, it has one of the poison tokens and is visible, or vice versa, and wholly within 3 inches of a friendly Plague Marine operative, or it's visible to, or vice versa, and within 3 inches of a friendly Plague Marine icon bearer operative. The next strategic ploy we have is Lumbering Death. Whenever a friendly Plague Marine operative is shooting or fighting during an activation in which it hasn't moved more than 3 inches, or whenever it's retaliating, its weapons have the Ceaseless Weapon rule. Now, the Ceaseless Weapon rule means you can reroll any dice result of your choice. Say if you selected 2, you can reroll any results of 2. Okay, so the next strategy ploy we have is Cloud of Flies. It says right here, place one of your Cloud of Flies markers in the kill zone. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Plague Marine operative that's more than 3 inches from it, if that friendly operative is wholly within 3 inches of that marker, that friendly operative is obscured. In the ready step of the next strategy phase, remove the marker. So for this one, I found the wording to be quite confusing. So let's just break it down a little bit. Basically, at the start of your strategy phase, you can place a Cloud of Flies marker anywhere within the kill zone, and it provides the Plague Marine with an obscured benefit if the Plague Marine is within 3 inches of the marker. Now, for the obscure benefit to apply, the enemy operative that shoots at the Plague Marine must be more than 3 inches away from the Cloud of Flies marker. And if those conditions are met, the Plague Marine is considered obscured, and this means the enemy operative suffers a -1 penalty to hit roll when shooting at the Plague Marine, and the Cloud of Flies marker is then removed during the ready step of the next strategy phase. Okay, and the last strategic ploy we have is Nurgling. So it's pretty straightforward. So you select one enemy operative within 3 inches of a friendly Plague Marine operative, or one enemy operative that has one of your poison tokens and is within 7 inches of a friendly Plague Marine operative. Until the end of the selected operative's next activation, subtract 1 from the APL stat. So yeah, by lowering the APL, the enemy operative will have fewer action points available for its next activation and potentially reducing its ability to perform actions like moving, shooting, or completing objectives. Okay, now we're moving on to Firefight ploys. The first Firefight ploy, we have Virulent Poison, and this Firefight ploy can be used whenever a friendly Plague Marine operative is activated or performing a counter action, and before or after it performs an action. Now you've got two options with this. You can either, option 1, select one enemy operative within 3 inches of the Plague Marine operative to gain 1 poison token if the enemy operative doesn't already have one. Now I just want to add that poison tokens do not stack, so if they already have one, it's not cumulative at all. You can't give them 2 or anything like that. Now this option is a guaranteed way to give an enemy operative a poison token if they are close to your Plague Marine. Now for option 2, you can roll a 2d6, and if the result is 7 or higher, you can select one enemy operative within 7 inches of the Plague Marine operative to gain 1 poison token if the enemy operative doesn't already have one. Now, once again, this option allows you to apply a poison token to an enemy operative at a greater range, but it is dependent on a dice roll. So for the next Firefight ploy, we've got Poisonous Demise, and it can basically be used when a friendly Plague Marine operative is incapacitated, i.e. taken out of action. And basically what happens is after the Plague Marine is incapacitated, each enemy operative that is both visible to the incapacitated Plague Marine and within 3 inches of the Plague Marine operative gains 1 of your poison tokens if they don't already have one. Now for each enemy operative that already has a poison token, whether they gained 1 during this action or not, you inflict 1 damage on them. This damage is applied after the poison token is given, so if the enemy operative already has a token, they take damage immediately. Now, I think this Firefight ploy is particularly useful when you want to punish the enemy for getting too close to your Plague Marines, especially when they're about to take out one of your operatives. The ploy can effectively deal damage to multiple enemies that are within range and increase the debuffing effect with your poison tokens. Okay, so for the next Firefight ploy, we've got Sickening Resilience. This ploy can be used when an attack dice inflicts damage on a friendly Plague Marine operative, and until the end of the activation or counteraction, for the purposes of the Sickening Resilient rule, you will always subtract 1 from the damage inflicted to a minimum of 2. Now, what this means is, for example, if the attack would normally inflict 3 damage, it would be reduced to 2. Now, if the attack would inflict 2 damage, it stays at 2. It cannot go any lower than 2. And there's no need to roll, so the key part of this ploy is you don't need to roll for the damage reduction. It is automatically applied, which makes it more reliable in reducing incoming damage. So it makes this makes Plague Marines even more resilient to damage, especially when facing attacks that could normally deal higher damage. And it's a great way to mitigate damage on Plague Marines, keeping them alive longer and making them tougher to deal with. Okay, so for the final Firefight ploy, we've got Curse of Rot. You can activate this ploy when a friendly Plague Marine operative is fighting in close combat or shooting at an enemy operative. Now the enemy operative must be within 3 inches of your Plague Marine or within 7 inches if the enemy has one of your poison tokens. Now after your opponent rolls their attack or defense dice, any dice results of 3 that are rolled by your opponent, firstly it inflicts 1 damage on the enemy operative immediately. Secondly, the rolls are treated as failed rolls, so there are no successes, and they cannot be re-rolled, including through abilities or command points. Now, I think this punishes average rolls, so opponent dice rolls of 3 are common and become harmful, making the ploy very disruptive, and they work well against durable operatives. Okay guys, so moving on to faction equipment. So firstly, we've got Plague Bells. You can ignore any changes to the stats of friendly Plague Marine operatives from being injured, including their weapon stats. So for the next faction equipment, we have Blight Grenades. Friendly Plague Marine operatives have the following ranged weapon. You cannot select it for use more than twice during the battle. So the Blight Grenade has 4 attacks, has a 4+ to hit, 2 normal damage, and 4 crit damage. It has a range of 6 inches, has a blast 2-inch rule, which is the target you select is the primary target. After shooting the primary target, shoot this weapon against each secondary target in any order of your choice. Roll each sequence separately. Secondary targets are other operatives visible to and within 2 inches of the primary target. It also has Saturate, so the defender cannot retain cover saves, and Severe. If you don't retain any critical successes, you can change one of your normal successes to a critical success. Any rules that take effect as a result of retaining a critical success, such as Devastating or Piercing crits, still apply. Now, it also has poison, so as aforementioned, I've written the rules down there for your viewing pleasure, so check it out, I won't repeat it. The next faction equipment we have is Playgrounds. Friendly Plague Marine operatives' bolt guns and bolt pistols have the poison and severe weapon rules. So just aforementioned, the poison rule right here for you, and the severe weapon rule. Okay, so for the final faction equipment, we've got Poison Vents. Whenever an enemy operative that has one of your poison tokens is activated within 3 inches of a friendly Plague Marine operative, inflict D3 damage on it instead of the normal 1. Okay guys, we're moving on to team composition for the Plague Marines kill team. You can have a total of 6 operatives, inclusive of 1 kill team leader. Now for the kill team leader, you got the option of the Plague Marine champion only, and he comes equipped with the plasma pistol and the plague sword as his melee weapon. Now he's got 2 rules here. You've got toxic. Whenever this operative is using this weapon against an enemy operative that has one of your poison tokens, add 1 to both damage stats of this weapon. So both damage stats just means the normal damage stat as well as the critical damage stat. And for the next rule, we've got Grandfather's Blessing. Whenever an enemy operative that has one of your poison token loses a wound within 7 inches of this operative regains 1 lost wound to a maximum of 3 lost wounds per turning point, and only if this operative isn't incapacitated. Okay guys, moving on to the regular kill team operatives now. So you can select 5 kill team operatives to go along with your kill team leader, with a total of 6 kill team operatives in total. Now you can select 1 max of the Bombardier. He comes with a bolt gun and fists. He comes with weapon rule Grenadier. This operative can use blight and crack grenades. C faction and universal equipment. Doing so doesn't count towards any limited uses you have, i.e. if you have selected those grenades from equipment for other operatives. Whenever it's doing so, improve the hit stat of that weapon by 1, and blight grenades have the toxic weapon rule, see below. So the toxic weapon rule, whenever this operative is using this weapon against an enemy operative that has one of your poison tokens, add 1 to both damage stats of this weapon. The next kill team operative we have is the Fighter. You can have 1 max of him in a kill team, and he comes with 1 weapon. It's the Flail of Corruption. He's also got an additional action called Flail that costs 1 AP. Now you can inflict D3 plus 2 damage on each other operative that's both visible to and within 2 inches of this operative. Roll separately for each. If it's an enemy operative, if the D3 result is a 3, that enemy operative also gains 1 of your poison tokens if it doesn't already have one. Now note, this operative cannot perform this action while it has a conceal order or during an activation which it has performed more than 1 fight action, and it cannot perform more than 1 fight action during an activation in which it performs this action. Moving on to the Heavy Gunner, you can have 1 max of him as well, and he comes with the Plague Spear and Fist for his melee weapons. So next we got the Icon Bearer. He comes with the bolt pistol and a plague knife. You'd have 1 max of him. He's got the rule Icon Bearer. Whenever determining control of a marker, treat this operative's APL stat as 1 higher. Note, this isn't a change to its APL stat, so any changes are cumulative with this, so it does stack. He's also got Icon of Contagion. Whenever this operative is within your opponent's territory, the Contagion strategy ploy costs 0 CP. Next, we've got the Malignant Plague Caster. You can have 1 max of him. He comes with Entropy and Plague Wind, which range psychic abilities, and the Corrupted Staff for his melee weapon. Now, he comes with 2 additional actions. He's got Poisonous Miasma. It's a psychic. Select 1 enemy operative visible to and within 7 inches of this operative, or 1 enemy operative that's a valid target for this operative. That enemy operative gains 1 of your poison tokens if it doesn't already have one. If it already has one, inflict 3 damage on the enemy operative instead. So the operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative. He's also got another 1 AP action, Putrescent Vitality. It's also a psychic ability. Select 1 friendly operative visible to and within 3 inches of this operative, then roll 2d6. If the result is 7, the selected operative regains 7 lost wounds. Otherwise, the selected operative regains lost wounds equal to the highest d6. Okay, so note, an operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative or more than once per turning point. Okay, and finally we have the Warrior. You can also have 1 max of him. He comes with a bolt gun and a plague knife, and he comes with Repulsive Fortitude rule. Whenever an operative is shooting this operative, defense dice results of 5+ are critical successes. and he's also got Toxic. Okay guys, we are moving on to the data cards now. We're going to have a look at the weapons and the stats. So firstly we have the Plague Marine Champion. He's got an APL of 3, move of 5 inches, 3 plus save and 15 wounds. The Plague Marine Bombardier has an APL of 3, 5-inch move, 3 plus save, 14 wounds. And the Plague Marine Fighter has an APL of 3, 5-inch move, 3 plus save, and 14 wounds. Alright, we're moving on to the weapon rules. Firstly, we're looking at the Plague Marine Champion. He's got, obviously, the range weapon rule. It says 8 inches right here. It just means the weapon is limited to 8 inches in range. Now, the next one is the piercing 1. The defender collects 1 less defense dice. Hot. After use, roll d6. If less than the weapon's hit stat, in this particular case, a 3 plus inflicts damage on the user equal to dice result multiplied by 2. If used multiple times in a single action, i.e. blast, still just 1d6. Now, lethal 5 plus, critical successes on a 5 plus instead of a 6. Rending, if you make any critical successes, you can retain an additional normal success as a critical also. If you don't retain any critical successes, you can change one of your normal successes to a critical success. Any rules that take effect as a result of retaining a critical success, e.g. devastating or critical hits, still do. Poison, in the resolve attack dice step, if you inflict damage with any successes, the operative this weapon is being used against gains 1 of your poison tokens, if it doesn't already have one. Whenever an operative that has 1 of your poison tokens is activated, inflict 1 damage on it. And Toxic, we'll review it once again. Whenever this operative is using this weapon against an enemy operative that has 1 of your poison tokens, add 1 to both damage stats of this weapon. So for the next few ones, essentially the same rules, except here, for the Plague Marine Fighter, we've got Brutal. It says, your opponent can only block with critical successes. He's also got Severe, but here he's got Shock. The first time you strike with a critical success in each sequence, also discard 1 of your opponent's unresolved normal successes or 1 of their critical successes if there are none. And then, once again, we've got Poison, which I won't go over again. Okay guys, moving on to the next page, we've got the Plague Marine Heavy Gunner. He's got an APL of 3. 5-inch move, 3 plus save, 14 wounds. The Plague Marine Icon Bearer has an APL of 3, 5-inch move, 3 plus save, and 14 wounds. And the Malignant Plague Caster has an APL of 3, 5-inch move, 3 plus save, and 14 wounds also. Now for the Plague Marine Heavy Gunner, in terms of the weapon rules, he's got range of 7 inches. Saturate, the defender cannot retain any cover saves. Severe, just the same as the previous rules, however I'll leave them up here for your viewing pleasure. He's got Torrent 1-inch rule, so select a valid target as the primary target, then select any number of other valid targets within 1 inch of the first valid target as secondary targets. Shoot this weapon against all of them in any order of your choice, rolling each sequence separately. He's also got the Poison rule as well for his Plague Spear. Now moving on to the Plague Marine Icon Bearer. Once again, it's a range of 8 inches, Severe and Poison rule. Next we've got the Malignant Plague Caster. Now, once again, he's got the Poisonous Miasma 1 AP action and the Putrescent Vitality 1 AP action. He's also got the Psychic weapon rules for each of his weapons, and Psychic is generally used as indicator with no inherent rules that provide benefits or penalties. However, it's used for interactions with other rules such as resistance stats and nullify abilities, and it's for flavor, really. He's got the Saturate and then the Severe. Poison, same as prior. Torrent, same as prior. And he's also got the Shock rule here. So the first time you strike with a critical success in each sequence, also discard 1 of your opponent's unresolved normal successes or 1 of their critical successes if there are none. And he's also got Stun. If you retain any critical successes, subtract 1 from the APL stat of the operative this weapon is being used against until the end of its next activation. Alright guys, here and finally we have the Plague Marine Warrior. He's got an APL of 3, move stat of 5 inches, a 3 plus save, 14 wounds. He's got Repulsive Fortitude, and he's also got Toxic. Additionally, he's got Severe and Poison. So we've been through those. We won't go through them again. So that's pretty much it. That's all you really need to know to get started with the Plague Marines as a beginner player. Before we wrap up, I just want to give a huge shout out to Wayland Games UK, who are now supporting the channel. If you're looking for great deals on Warhammer miniatures, paints, and hobby supplies, they've got the best prices around. So be sure to use my affiliate link down below in the description. You'll not only get discounts on your Warhammer needs, but you'll also be supporting the channel at no extra cost to you. Every little bit helps me keep making these guides and expanding the content, so if you're picking up a new kill team or just stocking up on supplies, check them out. Links in the description below. Okay guys, that's all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like the video and found it useful, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what you'd like to see in the future, and make sure you hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with any videos in the future. That's all for now, folks. Be sure to check out our Patreon to support us further. Alex out.
So cold this way. Welcome to